Hi, this is Julia Widdop with Talk Story TV, and I have with me today Liz Jansen, who's going to tell us about her new book. Go ahead, Liz.
Thanks, Julia. It's great to be here. And my book is Women, Motorcycles, and the Road to Empowerment.
Okay. We just had another lady with a book about motorcycles. They must be empowering.
They are empowering. You know, in this book, I've interviewed 49 other women, and it's a collection of stories set into a larger story, but it really talks about, and we're going to be talking about the hero's journey. It really talks about following that through, and the motorcycle is so symbolic. That's what's so magical about it, and it teaches you so much about yourself and about what you're capable of, and it really is a hero's journey all into itself. So we'll talk about that more.
What symbolic of what? You said symbolic. It's really...
Well, it is, things you do on a motorcycle. Like, for instance, it teaches you things like about balance. So, for example, on a motorcycle, you have to be balanced, right? And if you transfer that then to your life, you think about, what is out of balance in my life, and what does that mean? On a motorcycle, the outcome is very immediate. In your life, you don't necessarily see it so much, but it's just the same. So if you are observant and looking at those things, anything like vision, on a motorcycle, you have to keep your eyes well ahead and look where you're going. How does that apply to our life? I mean, we should be doing the same thing, but we get distracted by what's right in front of us. So there's lots and lots of different things that are symbolic, lots of symbolism and teachings.
All right. And how was it is the book about a specific road trip, or?
No, thank you. That's a good question, though, because, it's called the Road to Empowerment. And really what the road is the road that we all travel to discover who we are. So it's not a literal road. It's not a story about, the book isn't about travels, on the road, although some of the insights that came were during travels. The road to empowerment is really the road. It leads us. I like to say it can lead you around the block. It can lead you around the world, but it always leads you back to yourself. So it's really the road to finding out who you are and what your strengths are.
Right. Okay. What are some more examples of that? How, you mentioned the balance and the looking ahead.
Mm-hmm. Balance, vision. How about things like looking after your motorcycle? If we don't look after it and it breaks down on us, we're left. It could be a safety concern if that happens on the road, or it could just leave us stranded somewhere. But how much attention do we pay to ourselves and the needs for body, mind, and spirit, and looking after that? The effects aren't always so immediate. That's another example. And the energy. On a motorcycle, when you run out of gas, the motorcycle stops. But we tend to push ourselves, don't we? Mm-hmm. And so we run out of gas, and then we go beyond some. On a motorcycle, you have either an indicator or a reserve, and says, you're running low, you better fuel up. And we have those signs too, but we don't always pay attention to them, and we run ourselves too hard sometimes.
Right. So 49 women. There must be a lot of women motorcycle riders, huh?
There are, and these stories, every one of them is special and was so touching when I read it, when I interviewed the women. The truth of the matter is that everybody has a story to tell, and whether they're a rider or not, I mean, everybody, if you think about what's happened in your life and what you've done and what some of your strengths are, everybody has a story. So it was really special for me to be able to collect these and put them into a collective message.
Yeah. Neat. And when did the book come out?
The book came out last fall, and it took me 3 years to write it. During that time, I interviewed, a lot of women, and the women whose stories ended up in the book they come from a real cross section of life experiences, motorcycle experiences, ages, demographics. They're from all over North America. There's one from the UK, and everything from politicians to artists to activists to a stunt woman to stay-at-home moms. So when the reader is going through the stories, it doesn't matter who you are, if you're a man or a woman writer or not. You read and you identify with the stories because they're universal themes.
Right. Okay. And you said you were going to talk more about the hero's journey aspect.
Yeah.
What did you have in mind?
The book is really structured. It is structured like a hero's journey. So there's 49 stories. I'm the 50th, so my story sort of is woven throughout the whole book.
Mm-hmm.
And the stories are the way the chapters are arranged follows the hero's journey. So when we start, for example, we're talking about the perspectives we have on our personal power and how we're raised to view that, and if we view ourselves as having power, or do we have a choice, or are we raised to accept what is given to us and not question? So that's just the start. And then at some point everybody gets a call to adventure. And do we listen to it or don't we listen to it? There's a chapter on that, and there's a chapter on motorcycles as chariots of change. So once you take that step across the threshold, the real adventure begins, and you get all kinds of challenges, and how do you get past them? And in this book, we talk about how either you get past them through motorcycling, or things you learn about yourself through motorcycling helps you pass them. Mm-hmm. So, the whole framework of the book really follows the hero's journey, ending with, finding the message, which is really that we have, the power is really within us, and the journey to discover that. And then it's so special. It's like the elixir, and you have to share that. You're compelled. I've never seen, women or men, once they get riding, they're so passionate about it. They want to share it, and they want to share it with everybody because it's something that's so special that they found.
Yeah, I've noticed that. They all get real enthusiastic.
It is, and it's hard to describe to somebody who doesn't ride. The book doesn't advocate also that everybody needs to ride a motorcycle. It's really about following your passion. The motorcycle, again, here is symbolic. So it's really, what is meaningful to you, and what is your heart telling you to do and to follow, and then having the courage and the strength to follow through with that.
Right. Okay. And did you deliberately try to structure it as a hero's journey?
I didn't at first. I did as the book was developing. I became aware of it as I thought about, what steps do we go through as we discover our strengths and what we're capable of. And I was reading, I had done a lot of reading and research, and one of the books that I researched was actually a couple were from Joseph Campbell. And then I could see that this fit very much into what the hero's journey was. And so then it all came together like that. So, it doesn't say that it's following the hero's journey, but if you look at the way the chapters are, and even, as I mentioned, the names of the chapters, it really does follow that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think pretty much the hero's journey works for most stories. That's been my experience.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't just happen one time in your lifetime either. I mean, we go on lots of journeys.
True.
We have one big journey, but within that, there's lots of journeys.
Little road trips.
Little road trips, that's right.
Side
and how
trips.
better is to take them.
Detours.
What's that?
Detours.
Yep. Roads under construction. Bad weather. All of that.
And what tips do you give people about those types of things? Detours, potholes.
When you go out on a motorcycle ride, you can guarantee there's going to be an adventure. Every time there's going to be an adventure. You don't know what it's going to be, but there will be something. And it's really the same with anything that we set out with on in our life. So you have to be, first of all, you have to be aware that this could happen, but you have to be flexible, and you have to be able to respond to these things and get past them. If you let them stop you, you're stopped in your tracks. But if you can get past them, then that's where the real rewards are. You know, one of the stories that comes to mind as I'm mentioning this is Carla King, whose story is in the book. And, when she was in her mid-20s, she was married at the time, and her husband had set out they were going to go on a motorcycle tour of Europe. And the way it ended up was that he didn't end up showing up. So she was left there in Milan in her mid-20s, and with a motorcycle and all by herself in a country where she couldn't understand the language, and a husband who had just, left her. And so what do you do? She said, I could have stayed there and I could have gone into a B&B and cried, which she did. But she also took the opportunity and learned that she had an absolute passion for solo motorcycle travel. And she said, had I known, I'm so glad that happened to me, because I was able, I was so afraid when that really happened. I was panicky on the airplane. But when it did happen and I discovered these strengths about myself, the rewards have been so tremendous that, you just want to keep, challenging yourself. And she has gone on to become a real world traveler. She's a journalist, a travel writer, and a real inspiration. She's written a number of books.
Wow. She sounds interesting. Do you want to read us something from your book?
I could read something from the book. I have, I could read a story. I could read The Last Word, which is actually sort of a fairy tale. Okay. And it's not a particular story. Would you like to hear that?
I would.
Okay. Once upon a time, there was a woman who lived a simple life in a small cabin nestled in a dense, vibrant hardwood forest. She enjoyed adventures, walking in the woods during the day and gazing at the starry heavens at night. Daily, she spent time in contemplation and prayer, and although she made a lot of changes in her life trying to do the right thing, she had trouble following her own wisdom and inner guidance. Her mind was very good at making all kinds of noise, which led to worry and made listening difficult and decisions confusing. Mostly the confusion resulted from fear. She was afraid to listen too closely because she'd be guided in a direction that was new to her. Fear made everything seem foggy, and she couldn't see where she was going. She knew she was on the right path and headed in the right direction, but there were obstacles. Rather than slowing down and letting the noise settle and her vision clear, she blindly kept pushing forward. Eventually, on a spring day, the weight of what she was carrying was too much, and her shoulder broke under the load. God spoke gently to her in that moment. Stop, rest, and sit here for a while in the beautiful woods you love so much. To make sure she stopped and to help her understand her power came from within, God gave her right arm a rest for a while. While she was sitting on the path in the woods, an angel came by and pointed at the beautiful patch of trilliums growing in the woods where the woman was looking and not seeing. The angel noted, "I've never seen so many trilliums. And they're not behind you, they're only in front of you." The woman marveled. Trilliums meant new life, growth, energy, and the beginning of a new cycle. She hadn't noticed them until the angel pointed to them in her future. Other angels guided the woman back to her cabin where she could rest and heal. The woman knows she still has fears to conquer, but she's recognizing them sooner. They kept her from following her true path and realizing her potential. But now she has only begun to tap into her limitless power. She knows she's guided and cared for. Her prayers are always heard and answered, and she has no need to be afraid. Many people love her, and she is never alone. She is wealthy in many ways and so grateful for the abundance in her life that she must share her learnings with others too, so they also know how to find the treasure. Mm-hmm. That's at the end of the story. And
great.
What's that?
I said great.
You miss, you don't know what the beginning is, but it ties into the beginning, and then everything that happens in between really supports that story.
And where could we get this book?
You can get it on Amazon and Amazon.com, and it's available either in print or it's in Kindle. You can get it also through my website if you want a signed copy, which is lizjansen.com.
Okay. All right. I want to invite you to join the Talk Story Network, and I'll send you more information on that. Well, I guess I'll just tell everybody about it now. We have a network for people, writers, storytellers, and speakers called talkstory.ning.com. So thank you for being with us today, Liz.
Thank you very much, Julia.
Okay.